Hi, and welcome back to the Bayou Herbalist show. This will be our first episode, so just kind of bear with me. Um, so I wanted to kind of give a little background about the Bayou Herbalist and Holistic Homesteaders Healing and Wellness. I'm your host, Courtney. I am from Louisiana. I am the owner and founder of Holistic Homesteaders Healing and Wellness, and I am the podcast host. So, in order to kind of give you the full scope of how all of this came about, we have to go all the way back, like 20 years ago, when I first started to get sick. I was like maybe 10 or 11, and I had these extreme periods, and it was constantly having issues, especially, at school and stuff. And then in high school, it kind of progressed to having to go get my blood work done every time I turned around, being accused of being on drugs, or my mom preg testing me every single time I turned around because of the fact I couldn't keep anything down, or just because I was losing weight pretty drastically. I was sick all the time, and they thought I was, I don't know, bulimic or something. They thought it was something like a self-image that I was forcing myself to do it. And that just wasn't the case. I had my first son in 2017, and that pregnancy was really rough on me and him. My body just really didn't want to carry him, it seemed like. And about the 22-week mark, my body was trying to go into labor pretty constantly, and we kind of had to counteract it quite frequently. I was having issues. He did end up being a preemie, and he was in the NICU there for a little bit. And I was super malnourished and underweight, and it was the first time someone told me that, I was on death's door because of how small I was and how sickly I was. They gave me a dietitian at the time, and that dietitian's like, hey, you need to be eating ice cream every single day. You need the dairy, you need the fat in it, so on and so forth. Little did we know, right? In 2019, I got diagnosed with endometriosis. Finally, I felt like I was heard. I realized that it was not in my head. It was real. There's a cause for pain and weight loss in my situation. For me, it's weight loss. And there's a reason. There was justification. That was not drugs. It wasn't because I was knocked up as a teenager. And it wasn't because of bulimia. There was a reason. Endometriosis. Did we know what it was? Not really. The doctors didn't even really know what it was. They don't know where it comes from. And they sure as hell don't have a cure. So, at the time, there wasn't too much research done on it. I think they were just now kind of sort of beginning to kind of look into it a little bit. I think they said at the time, and don't quote me, it was 1 in 10 women. I believe it's much more than that now. I think I've seen the newest statistics for 1 in 4. As a result, they put in a IUD, and if you're familiar with that, you know what that is. If not, it's like a little T-shaped little thing that they shove into your uterus, and it is commonly supposed to help regulate hormones, as the initial thought is estrogen feeds it. And those of us with it, we make an abundance of estrogen, and they were trying to bring down those levels. Well, when you do that, it creates another host of issues for a person, right? So, at the time, that's how we were treating it. We were treating it through hormones, regulation. I should back up some. All throughout my teen years, from 8, 9, 10, 11, I don't really remember, but on up, I was on birth control. which I believe is a huge contributing factor. Anyway, so the IUD. I left that in for 2 years. And I made, I don't know, a ER visit probably once a year at that point. Just for pain and not being able to keep anything down. There was so many nights and days where I would miss work and just be in the bathroom floor, like bleeding out, getting sick, the whole 9 yards. My brother moved in with me once and he got to witness it himself. And he recounts it as he thought I was dying. I felt like it. I wanted to. Um, After so many times of going to the doctors or an ER, and you get told it's in your head, or they don't see anything wrong, or, whatever, or why don't you go back to your doctor that diagnosed you? And then let's say you don't have the right kind of insurance. Maybe you don't have insurance at all. Maybe you owe a outrageous freaking copay or something. Or maybe that doctor's not taking patients. Or, whatever. There's a whole series of events that I wish wasn't even a thing because it severely limits access to healthcare, right? So, ooh, that leaf out there I thought was a person and it scared me. So, yes, that's just kind of where we're at. And it kind of leads up to this next part where I myself, and I do not recommend, do not do this to yourself. I am not telling you to do it. Don't do it. I pulled out that IUD myself. And it was the most excruciating thing because I'm pretty positive it was adhered to the left side of the uterus where most of my pain was coming from anyway. I pulled it out and it was very painful on that particular side, but it was like immediate relief. Immediate. Yeah, the pain made me get sick. Like on the spot. It turned my stomach. But it was immediate relief. I felt so much better. And I swore then that they were never, ever, ever going to put anything foreign inside of my body again. Ever. And it was pretty manageable. I didn't spend my days and nights in the bathroom floor bleeding out and getting sick anymore. Instead, it was mainly just the pain. The pain, what I was always used to, was still there. And then, you get the tremors and you get shaking. And I still do that from time to time, but not near as bad. So I spent a lot of time super, super, super fatigued and in an incredible amount of pain. Irregular period still. I was still like not able to keep things down, but it wasn't like continuous, nonstop, bleeding one way and getting sick the other way kind of situation. It wasn't like that anymore. I had a little bit more, it just wasn't as bad. And to me, that was okay. And I forgot to mention that I didn't know until that I was in labor with my first son because the pain level is the same. Childbirth for me and my pain level is like a walk in the park. I could do that all day, every day, and it's okay. So that's just an example, right? So let's kind of fast forward again to 2022. I got pregnant a second time, and at this point, it's been 5-6 years. I already knew that my body more than likely was not going to fare very well with that. And I went with a different hospital this go around, and it's a regret that I carry. At this particular hospital, there were students everywhere. And it's not because I chose it, it's just happened to be the ER that I ended up with that day. So when they gave me a doctor to get checked out, that's kind of where I got stuck. And I regret it heavily. I wish I had never gone to that hospital. I wish I had never agreed to stay there for my OB appointments. I wish I had a better team, honestly, or made better decisions. I pled with them and I told them, I don't know how many times, that I was worried something was going to happen because I know my body. And I told them then, if something goes awry, I want a hysterectomy because I can't keep doing this, right? I just can't. Sure enough, we went in for a routine ultrasound and we got told that our baby's heart had stopped. And that sometimes it just happens and there is no reason. We later found out that there were blood clots in his umbilical cord. There were blood clots all in the placenta. And depending on who you talk to, they may say, well, that happened after the fact, but we know that that happened during. Okay? So that happened. So Alex was 8 hours away in South Texas working. I had to call him and bring him all the way back up here, knowing what had just happened was happening and that he was coming to meet me at the hospital so that we can deliver this child, right? That during that time, I was making funeral arrangements. Which was my first time making funeral arrangements on my own. And it's outrageously expensive, even for a little human like this big. And we couldn't do it that way. We didn't have the money for it, so we had him cremated. So that was that night. And I remember we left the hospital the next morning and we kind of started making our rounds with like family and stuff. My family decided that I shouldn't be left home alone. So when Alex went back to work, I went to my mom's house and stayed there. She's got cameras inside and outside of her house, so they were able to keep an eye on me. Everyone kept commenting on how pale I was. And I don't remember necessarily feeling bad. I was feeling a type of way, but everyone kept talking about how white I was. We go in for a checkup like that following week, maybe 4 days later. I don't remember what day it was. And then I get told that I have to go in for an emergency surgery because I had been bleeding the entire time. Internally, obviously externally, but bleeding on a level that was deemed dangerous. I guess it's like some kind of hemorrhaging, or yeah, I recall it as the placenta did not detach all the way. Or when it did, it ripped. I don't exactly remember. I seem to think it was because the placenta did not detach all the way. Which blows my mind because I delivered that placenta myself on my own in a little bucket thing. I remember looking at it. No, I didn't pick it up and flip it over, but from where I was looking at it, it looked whole to me. But they had to go back in. They had to clean everything out, stop the bleeding. And then from there, I had to get like some cancer cells removed, which was super fucking painful. Excuse my language. And then I left there and met a different doctor. His name is Dr. Weather here in Shreveport. He goes between here in Shreveport and New Orleans. He's an endometriosis specialist, and he owns the Omni Fertility Clinic. Through him and several more surgeries, I learned that not only do I have endometriosis, I have adenomyosis. I have fibroid tumors. Okay. I have a thing called endosalpingosis, which is endometriosis inside of the fallopian tubes. I didn't even know that was a thing. Which, with what little tubes I have left, I guess he found it because before I came to him, myself and the other hospital, at the time, that same night that I had Sam, agreed on a tubal ligation rather than a hysterectomy. If you were talking to my husband, he'd say that he disagreed with that whole thing because I was in no place to be making decisions. All I knew is that I was pissed off at the world and I wanted it all to stop. I knew that I had sat there for, I don't know, 12 hours praying to whoever was listening that it was just a fluke on the systems and that he would be born perfectly fine. A little early, but fine. But no, it didn't work out like that. It never does. So, anyways, so after all of this, him being just royally ticked off at everybody and everything, and battling PPD pretty heavily, which I didn't really believe in myself until I experienced it myself with a stillborn child. My friends and family all really urged me to finally write that book that would kind of highlight the bull crap that happens when you're a woman with reproductive issues dealing with the medical system, right? So I did. It's called We Endo Warriors, The Invisible Disease. It's on Amazon and anywhere you can buy an online book or get one in person if you go up into Barnes & Noble and order it. Places like that. That, after meeting Dr. Weather, led into being able to become a speaker and participate at events like the Crush Endo Walk here in Shreveport. So that's pretty cool. That event is to raise awareness about endometriosis, but it's primarily aimed at endometriosis affecting the Black community, as at the time, and probably still, is more prevalent within their community than it is ours. I disagree, personally, just because of the people I work with and from the outside looking in, as well as someone with endometriosis themselves. I would say if they were to redo the statistics, I would say it's just majority of women across the board, no matter race. Don't quote me on it, that's just how I feel about it. Having been someone that's been fighting with it for 20 some odd years now, and knowing people that I know, people I've met through holistic homesteaders, people I've met out in the community, people I've met across the world, I would say it's much more maybe just a women's issue rather than a race issue. That's not to take away, okay? That's just something that I feel like more statistics and more research needs to be done. And I feel like if we're going to advocate for it, we should advocate for it as women and not make it a race issue. If you're catching what I'm throwing down, like, we as women have to come together and fight for these things together. So yeah, then sometime after that, my friend and I started Holistic Homesteaders as a partnership. Me more so for the advocating for endometriosis, of course, women's health, and her because she wanted to be able to provide natural, healthy self-care and home products. So that's how we started, and we were like mainly focusing on markets and stuff. And then, excuse me, she got pregnant and kind of stepped off. Then I took a break temporarily and then reformed as Holistic Homesteaders Healing and Wellness LLC. This is after going through a whole lot of educating myself and schooling and all the things to prepare myself to be able to talk about these things and then be able to do it from a place where, like, I know what I'm talking about. I have the backing and I have everything I need here. I've got the stuff to back up my stuff. I got the research, you know? So now we're Holistic Homesteaders Healing and Wellness. And we were kind of like putting informational stuff out there on the internet and writing blogs and selling products and stuff. We have access to the Full Script Pharmacy. We have access to Thorn as a affiliate, I believe. We got access to a whole bunch of things. I am signed up in the United States as a board certified naturopathic practitioner. Now, in my state, that is not recognized. So I do not treat and I do not diagnose, but I can suggest and I can educate. And that's where I work from. I consider myself as an educator and an advocate for health in general, not just women's health, but everybody. I advocate for breaking out of the matrix and taking control of your own health. You have the right to make that decision. Then my husband's ex-wife, who focuses more on herbalism from a survival aspect, she joined in, and then we started splitting up our classes. She does some, I'll do some, and then we've had so many great opportunities as a business of growth. We get invited to do all kinds of really cool things with other people that are like-minded. We've had some pretty massive classes. We've had some pretty amazing opportunities arise. This past year, we had our first annual retreat, which was really fun. We can't wait to plan the 2026 annual retreat. And we would like to hopefully extend it and then maybe do cabins this year instead of like tent camping. Which I like tent camping anyways, but I'm a cold nature individual, so the heat don't bother me. And it was like September. So yeah, we're working on like doing more this upcoming year. We plan on having a full agenda. And that kind of brings us here, right? So we've had more opportunities arise as our social media branding has expanded. So with that has come the ability to do a podcast, get on YouTube and kind of start cross-posting there, cross-posting across all the things, and growing our reach. Now, the initial goal was to be able to eventually provide free classes, free webinars, free education. Oftentimes, though, previously, we would charge a little fee because we provide everything you need to start you off on your holistic journey. So that means that I would bring everything you need to get started making tinctures at home. I'd bring everything you need to get started, I don't know, making any kind of thing depending on the class. And that stuff cost. So we would charge for the products, the materials provided. And then there was no money that we would actually really make because it just goes right back into the business. So doing it that way has been pretty cool. It's opened up doors and it's allowed us to kind of reevaluate as becoming like a nonprofit and taking donations. So we're kind of toying around with that idea. And then just the need in general. People want to talk about the issues that we're having in America or, across the world with women and, lack thereof in holistic education because we were kind of taught that it was a fluke. But it's not, and it's making a comeback. And what I love more than anything is that it is making a comeback. So, yeah. I mean, if this is something that you're interested in, definitely get in touch. We'd like to hear your story. We want to hear your story. We want to advocate for you. We want to teach you how to advocate for yourself. We want to teach you how to, I don't know, maintain a homestead and make your own medicine, right? You have that right as a free human being, right? So there is a time and place for allopathic medicine, right? I am not saying to turn your back on it altogether. There is a time and place, but be educated, be smart, advocate for yourself, ask questions, okay? Do your research before you get put on something that's going to make your symptoms worse or make you sicker. Speaking from experience. Do not be tricked into this magical cure that does not exist. It's about the money. If they can keep you sick to keep you coming back, it's kind of the whole gist. So take accountability, educate yourself, be smart, do your research, ask questions, okay? Advocate for yourself and your loved ones. I cannot stress it enough. Advocate. So important. I could go on forever about that. Advocate for yourself. I don't even know if you can hear me. My hair is covering the mic. Advocate for yourself. I can say that over and over and over and over and over again and not ever tire of it. Because I am the living embodiment of what is possible when you break away from the chemical drugs that they put you on. I went from being like literal skin and bones on my deathbed, hair falling out, not being able to eat or keep anything down, and hardly able to move to being able to get my life back. I remember when we were prepping for the retreat last spring, and I was able to complete a hike without any assistance, without having to have to lean on somebody or use something to walk with, or take a break, or fainting, or any of the crap. I was so proud of myself. That wouldn't have been possible had I not, frankly, stopped taking all the crap. I had to get off all the medicine that they were providing. It was all experimental stuff that they were trying to shrink tumors and lesions and so on and so forth. But it's what is inside of the medication that causes side effects. And then you have to treat the side effects, right? Do not just give up. Okay? Again, I will say I am the walking embodiment of what I've been able to do for myself and what we do for other people. Now, whether or not you choose to listen the first time or not, that's on you. Because I have patients who they want it, they want to learn, but they're so embodied by what society makes you believe that they find it, they have a hard time breaking free of it because this is unknown to them. And, that's fine. We get, a lot of different stuff all the time. Ultimately, everybody comes back. And then we start receiving the stories, the success stories. I'm feeling better. I was able to accomplish this. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. And that's really what it's all about, right? While we're here, I wanted to touch on something else. You need to be paying attention to what you're putting in your body. I always thought I ate very clean until it really came down to life or death kind of situation. And Dr. Weathers and my husband taught me this. Just because you think you eat clean does not mean you're eating clean. You need to be paying attention to what's in the ingredients of the products that you are buying from the store. If you cannot pronounce it, and if it's some big word that shouldn't be there, you probably shouldn't be eating it. So you want something that's going to be natural and, very holistic for your body, very good. And we can do a whole segment on that too. If you can't pronounce it, you probably shouldn't be putting it in your body. You need to be paying attention to the ingredients list. The packaging itself could say that it is organic or healthy. It could look like a healthy option, but you need to turn it over and read the ingredients. You need to stay away from sugar, artificial sugars, the sugars that you can't pronounce on the back of the dang product. You'll probably see sucralose or something of that sort on there. If you have a inflammatory disease, like myself, some kind of immune disease like myself, sugar's probably feeding it, more than likely. And it keeps coming to be the issue with a lot of chronic illnesses in the United States. You need to stop eating the processed foods. You need to stay away from the artificial junk. Stay away from sugars. Anything that's bleached. Okay? You need to stay away from it. If you've been paying attention, you know that there's kind of like a movement happening where everyone's going back to homesteading and growing their own stuff. That is one way to go about it. And if that's not your speed, then purchase your produce and your meat from farms in your area. They're there, I promise you. You can even, I don't know, grow microgreens or anything right there in your kitchen. In your backyard. You can get meat rabbits, chickens, ducks, goats. They even have those little Jersey cows for milk. Beef cows. It's all there. But how you raise them is also going to contribute. You don't want anything with hormones injected into it. You don't want anything with, whatever. You want something that's naturally grass-fed. When you're feeding them, I don't know, foods from Tractor Supply, you want to make sure that it's something natural and not anything with growth hormones in it. While we're here, we might as well just touch on the hormones in the water or the chemicals in the air. Or those of us who live by big chemical freaking plants that we've been exposed to all of our lives, which is evidently now also a contributing factor to disease running rampant, or testosterone being low, or birth rates being low for women because our reproductive systems are crazy. What's another topic? Oh, the hormones in the water. So, all these people out here taking hormones, all these people out here taking some kind of medication to balance out their chemical imbalances in their brains for depression, anxiety, so on and so forth. That stuff gets secreted back into the water, right? And then it gets cleaned. But the cleaning process and the purification process does not absolutely clean that drinking water when it comes back through the tap. So then you got to start thinking about, okay, who's all ingesting this water that's contaminated? Majority of us, I'm sure. So what can we do to kind of control that the best we can anyway? Run it through an osmosis system? Purify it? Probably. That's what we do. We'll run it through the tap, put it through a purifier that's got sand, charcoal, I think it's got like some little gravel pebbles and some other stuff. It's like 5 layers. And then we put that through a different system that then turns it into like a drinking water. And if we're going to be cooking, we don't use the water from the tap. We will get purified water bottles and use that. But then there's another thing, right? What about the microplastics in the plastic water bottles? So, there's a rabbit hole that you could go down, and you'd probably never find your way back out. But there are ways that you can counteract it all. And all it really begins with is just kind of educating yourself, being aware. Start with something small. I don't know, something as simple as maybe deciding not to drink that Coke today, which is my kryptonite because I like my Cokes. Maybe I shouldn't eat that sugary treat today because that's not what it is. It's chemically changing stuff in your brain that makes you addicted to it. Maybe I should do some research and try to educate myself on the derivatives of what these medicines are made out of. And what company owns, let's say, Roundup, and what company also owns aspirin, or, any of the things. We could go on forever and ever and ever about all of this, and we probably will. We'll probably split it up into different episodes or different kind of things, but these are things that we talk about most in our classes when we're teaching how to make tinctures, when we're teaching how to advocate for oneself, when we're teaching you how to forage, when we're teaching you how to, I don't know, make salves or different things that you could use on your body if you have arthritis or pain. The options are endless. You just have to be aware and educate yourself. They're all there. And that's what we're here for. And anyone else on any of these apps that is knowledgeable on herbs or naturopathy or holistic anything or homesteading, any of these people on here can probably teach you something, more than likely. And the cool thing about it is even I don't know everything. They don't know everything. We're all constantly learning from each other. But the cool thing about it is that it's making a comeback. And that is incredible. It's been incredible also watching the rise in awareness in endometriosis, adenomyosis, fibroid tumors, or just really women's wellness, health, and wellness in general. I don't know why. It's been throughout history that women have just been shafted, and it's just normal. You're just being a big baby. It's all in your head. When really, for example, my body is being taken over by a disease that's just been a real pain in my neck for a very long time. But I have gained enough control over it now that I know how to manage it rather than it managing me. And like I said, I am the walking embodiment of what is possible when you take control of your health. Yeah, there's a place for allopathic medicine. There's still a place for there's still a place for Dr. Weathers. I still need him. Currently, at this moment, he doesn't accept my insurance, which is another whole topic. But that happens to a lot of people. There's not a whole lot I can do about it at this moment. But, I still learn from him. I learn from him all the time. I learn from my husband, who also takes the time to educate himself and learn different things. I learn from other people in my community who are on the same path, but in different ways, and vice versa. It's not a one-size-fits-all, and nobody knows everything. That's the cool thing about it. And I think at the same time, as there's those of us out here that are trying to educate, we're willing to learn from other people too. And we're not trying to make a monopoly out of you all. We're trying to educate you. That way you can take that knowledge and go on elsewhere and continue to spread it. And I think that builds a stronger community, which in this day and age, I think we need more than anything. And like I said at the beginning, it's not a race issue. It's a people issue. It's a women's issue. It's a men's issue. Depends on the topic, but yeah, it's not a race issue. It's a people issue. You need to advocate for yourself. You need to advocate for your family members. You need to be educated. You need to do the research. I am imploring you. It is so important. My son's urn sits on this desk every single day as a reminder. Because I get to live with that now. I wish I would have done things differently. I wish I would have advocated for myself in a different manner. He'd probably be here. But honestly, it probably happened for a reason so that I am here today. So, if that's the case, then it won't be in vain. I will continue to push on in my mission, and I will continue to advocate for all of you, and I will continue to advocate in general. Like, I'm going to make a big deal about it. My friends and family on my personal Facebook and in my personal circle are probably so sick of me at this point, but they've also witnessed what I've been able to grow. So, I'm not going to stay quiet. I lost a whole child out of it. And I'm still pissed off. And probably will be. And not only that, if I had to count on one hand how many people on my personal Facebook that have come across that have since lost a child because of some sort of reproductive disease or another, or we don't know the cause, I don't have enough fingers on any of my hands or toes or anything. It seemed to have heightened since it happened to me. And that pisses me off. So, anyway, I will step off my soapbox now. Welcome to the first episode of the Bayou Herbalist. And we will be back next week with a topic that I think is important. So, if you have any comments or suggestions or anything to add to the conversation, you can reach out to us here or on any of our platforms. You can email us at info@holistichomesteadershealingandwellness.org. We'd love to hear from you. And we're always looking to add guests to the podcast. Right now it's relatively new, so just bear with us as we get things situated and continue to grow, and it'll get better. But if you're as passionate as I am about these things, or if you have a similar story, could be anything, we'd love to hear from you. Anyways, thanks for listening. As always, happy healing, and we love you, and continue to advocate for yourself.